Well, it's been a long day, a productive day. Got a lot done today. I again ask your indulgence. I'm sitting here in my robe in my inner sanctum, and I want to talk about our fifth source, which is humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. You know, Thomas Starr King, he was a famous person in our denomination. There's a seminary named after him. He had this to say: the Universalists believe that God is too good to damn humanity, while the Unitarians believe that humanity is too good to be damned by God. Interesting perspective. Personally, I tend to lean more toward the Universalist view on that particular matter, but be that as it may, we're an open church, we're open to different ideas, and there's something to be said about humanity. Listen to this excerpt from Shakespeare. This is Hamlet, the main character from the play of that name. And he says, "What a piece of work is man! How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving how express and admirable, in action how like an angel, in apprehension how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals." You know, humanity has a mixed track record. To an outside observer, it could be argued that much of our history is written in its own blood. And there have been examples of us doing terrible things to one another over the centuries, over the millennia. But we've also accomplished amazing things. As a species, we're intelligent. We have built amazing works of architecture, created amazing works of art, paintings and statues and symphonies. We've conquered illnesses. We've extended lifespans. We've harnessed the atom for both good and ill. We've sent people into space, probes beyond our solar system. And we're adaptable. Human beings have managed to visit and successfully live in just about any environment that there is. Beneath the sea, out in space, deserts, polar regions, swamps, and anything in between. We're very adaptable. We tend to make the best of what we have and succeed. And that makes us resilient. We bounce back. We're living in a pandemic, but I have faith that we will get through this because we are resilient. We've gotten through world wars. We've survived plagues and famines and all manners of natural disasters over the ages, and we're still here. And perhaps most importantly, we are compassionate. We care for one another. We don't just elevate, the most successful among us. We care about the least among us. To me, that is so important. If we're going to call ourselves a civilization, then let us be measured by the way that we treat the least among us, not the greatest. And I also want to touch upon, what our fifth source says about, those idolatries of the mind and spirit. It's interesting in the Judeo-Christian scriptures, the Torah or the Bible, the number one thing it warns against is idolatry. False worship, false idols, glorifying false things. And it occurs to me that we need to be more conscious of that now, perhaps, than ever before. Because one of our great inventions is the internet. And, chances are you're using the internet to watch me say these words right now. But an unintended consequence of the internet is that we can find all manner of information to confirm our pre-existing beliefs and feelings, as opposed to using it to learn different perspectives and gather evidence that may not agree with our preconceived notions. You can see that. There are news channels for every, political stripe. We become very divided over these idolatries, these false worships, this tendency that seems to have emerged in the last couple of decades that, somehow says that a person's feelings are equally valid to another person's facts. That just because I feel that this is right, it doesn't matter what the evidence says. We need to be careful about that in our politics, in our management of the law, our morality. We need to be cautious of that idolatry. The bottom line is that you can believe in God or gods or a higher power. I do. But as passionately as people may believe, you can only take that and those types of things as matters of faith. You have to step out in faith. I can't prove to you that God exists. I can't prove to you that there is a higher power. I can point to things and say, well, that might be evidence of it. And, skeptics could say, well, that's just a happy coincidence. And I can't prove that they're wrong. So, again, the nature of God and belief, those are matters of faith. But one thing that we all have in common is we know what it is to be human. We all share the human experience, the highs and lows, the joys and sorrows, the victories and the grand disappointments. We know what it is to be human, whether we believe in a higher power or not. And while we certainly can have faith in something greater than ourselves, one of those things is humanity, the highest aspects of humanity, those things I talked about earlier. We can, rely on ourselves. Perhaps not solely on ourselves, but we've been relying on ourselves and surviving for over 10,000 years. The other thing is that even if, we're not strictly humanist, even if we do believe in God, we need to remember these words of Galileo, who was persecuted by the the church for teaching astronomical concepts that did not jibe with church teachings at the time. And he said this: "I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forgo their use." What a piece of work is man.
A sound of hope, a sound of peace, a sound that celebrates and speaks what we believe, a sound of love, a sound so strong. It's amazing what is given when we share a song. This is why we sing, why we lift our voice, why we stand as one in harmony. This is why we sing, why we lift our voice. Take my hand and sing with me. Soothe the soul, mend the heart, bring together lives that have been torn apart. Share the joy, find a friend. It's a never-ending gift that circles back again. This is why we sing, why we lift our voice, why we stand as one in harmony. This is why we sing, why we lift our voice. Take my hand